In a world filled with endless opportunities, why would two men who have built 13 multi-million-dollar businesses altruistically invest 5 hours per day to teach you the best practice business systems and moves that you can use? Because they believe in you, and they have a lot of time on their hands. Welcome into your daily audio dojo of Mojo experience. It's time for another episode of the Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colin Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm a dive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the C and Z up on your radio, and now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we
Yes,
here.
yes, yes, and yes, Thrive Nation, it is a very special occasion because we are still free in these great United States, and it is my civic duty to fight for your First Amendment rights to peaceably gather, and for your rights to not have to wear a mask, and for your rights to open your schools, and for your rights to not hide from a virus, but to live life as it was meant to be lived, to live life freely. And so we decided to interview Ken Reddick, and Ken Reddick is a man who wants to become Tulsa's next mayor. But Dr. Z and I wanted to expand our influence and to reach more people, so we decided to record the show using a Facebook Live feed so we could reach thousands upon thousands of people within the Tulsa city limits and beyond. And so the audio will sound slightly different as we hop into the audio from our interview with Ken Reddick, who would like to be Tulsa's next mayor. Dr. Z, I feel like we're going live.
Are we live?
I think we're going live. We are now live. We're here on Facebook Live. It's Dr. Z and
Wow.
a man who wants to be the next mayor of Tulsa. Now, Dr. Z, you and I have covered a lot of ground on these shows throughout the years.
Yep.
I never thought we would be doing shows about whether a mayor was in favor of defunding the police, whether a mayor was in favor of mask mandates, whether a mayor was in favor of lockdowns, whether a mayor was in favor of keeping schools and pools closed. Z, did you ever think we'd do a show about asking these kinds of questions about an Oklahoma mayor?
No, I mean, well, any mayor, you go back 4 or 5 months ago, but even as soon as 30 days ago, I didn't think that this would be an issue that would happen or we would bring up in Oklahoma, being the red of the red and the Bible Belt and the way that the people are here. I am surprised that we are experiencing what we're experiencing here in Tulsa, Jerusalem, Oklahoma.
Well, Tulsa is like the red Bible. It's like the red Bible Belt. I mean, it's truly the most conservative place on the planet. And I appreciate you keeping 6 feet away from me, by the way, because if you were 5.5 feet away from me, the virus could spread. But I appreciate you being exactly 6 feet apart.
Well, we measured it before.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'll get closer to you here in a minute.
Okay, good.
So on today's show,
I
we
miss
want to
you.
introduce the people of Tulsa, since there's not going to be a debate before the election. We want to introduce the people of Tulsa to a man who wants to be the next mayor of Tulsa. So Ken Reddick, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Well, I'm excited that you're here, and I'm going to ask you some tough questions.
Okay.
And then we're going to have kind of like a virtual town hall where other people who are not Z, who are not me, are going to come up here and ask you some questions. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and then Z's going to ask you, so you'll probably ask him 25 questions, and then we'll open it up to others.
Perfect.
Does that sound fair?
Sounds fair.
Okay. So, sir, what's kind of your background, and what makes you want to become mayor?
So my background is in electrical construction utilities. I was born and raised in Tulsa, so naturally I just wanted to always work for Tulsa's institutions. So I've been with PSO, AEP, and the University of Tulsa, where we played a role in electrical renovations, overhead to underground conversions. My dive into the political realm came in 2018. It was the first time I actually ran for my own campaign instead of just helping out volunteering. So I ran for Tulsa City Council District 7. Soon after that, Mayor Bynum reached out to myself directly and asked me to serve for the city. So that's when I got in pretty deep then.
So So are you one of those guys when you have a storm blow through town, you get our electricity back on?
Oh yeah.
Oh, cool. I've always wanted to meet one of those guys.
You're that guy.
You're that
I'm that
guy.
guy.
You're a quick
Yeah.
man.
Oh,
actually how I
that's
met my wife.
awesome. That's awesome.
wow. Really?
Now we know who to call when our power's
That's how
out.
you met your wife?
Yeah, during the 07
What did
ice
you
storm.
so did you shut her power
He
down?
said,
and then
excuse
say,
me, ma'am, do you want electricity?
Yeah.
Seriously, how did you meet her? How'd that go down? What happened?
So I was in charge of a subdivision called Ranch Acres here in Tulsa.
Sure.
They were down for about 4.5 weeks, and her and her mother lived at 36 in Harvard area.
Oh, yeah.
And I was in charge of the area, so I was just reaching out to all the customers, and I called her, more than once.
That's awesome. Then she goes, why do all my neighbors have electricity and I don't? Mine keeps
Right.
going out.
Keeps
Just
going
every,
out. I don't
just
understand.
every other week. It's out. It's out. It's
Unbelievable.
out.
Okay, so my
Unbelievable.
big 5 questions I have is, one, are you in favor of defunding the police,
Absolutely
and why?
Absolutely not. I'm actually looking for ways to alleviate the burdens that are on the local police department by creating other, community action projects.
That's controversial, though. There's a lot
Absolutely.
of mayors out there who do want to defund the police.
Yeah, they were pandering to the left.
Why would somebody want to defund the police? Why would a mayor want to do that?
Yeah.
I can't imagine why. I mean, it's defunding neighborhood stabilization. I mean, you're asking crime-ridden communities to support themselves, and they're just going to crumble and fall apart.
Yeah, the cities that have already started to lay off police officers and
Can we hire all of them,
and,
please?
and stop the hiring of new officers that were in the queue, so to speak. How's it been working out for them? Not so well, I think.
Yeah, not so well. So I hear Atlanta's their resignations and retirements are outpacing their new hires by 2 to 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I have question number 2. Question number 2.
Okay.
Are you in favor of mask mandates, and why? Now, I can just say this. I know people who work in restaurants. One specifically, if you're watching, her name is Trisha, and she has to work as a cook. And she was telling me she cannot breathe. See, it turns out she can't breathe while wearing a mask and while working as a cook back there. She's having a hard time. I went into Joseph A. Banks. It's a wonderful lady. If you're watching, she was having a hard time breathing. I've had to wear it on an airplane. I had a hard time breathing. I'm not a big fan of the mask thing. I want to ask you here, Ken, are you in favor of mask mandates, and why or why not?
Absolutely not. I think mandates and ordinances that require us to wear a mask without some kind of education standard to go along with that are far overreaching. It's a violation of our 9th Amendment at the very least. So to enact an ordinance that puts an entire blanket over an entire community and says you are all required to wear a mask doesn't take into account people that have health risks associated with lower oxygen levels. They have autoimmune deficiencies. Also, we're not taking into account people with anxiety disorders and PTSD. I've had a number of people in Tulsa, not my constituents yet, people in Tulsa that have reached out to me and given me traumatic life experiences, things that have happened to them, and a mask actually triggers that experience. So.
Yeah, and that's one of the things in the mandate is that if you have a health problem, but they don't say in there, if you think it may cause a problem, right? I mean, if you have a problem and you've already figured out the claustrophobia, and if you put something like that on your face, and you've already experienced that.
Right.
But all the people out there, a lot of people are with the reduced oxygen. What are they doing to their body down the road?
Exactly.
And I think that's what you're alluding to. It's not so much, hey, whenever your blood oxygen level goes down, oxygen doesn't get to the body parts that it needs to.
Are you saying
that can be a bad thing?
See, I know you're an optometrist, but
Yeah.
are you telling me? Are you saying that when you have less oxygen going into your mouth, your oxygen levels will go down? Is that what you're claiming?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of correlation. I also own a sleep center, Dr. Z Sleep Center, and sleep apnea is one of the diseases that we see quite frequently. And we use a CPAP machine to help that. And that actually forces air into a person's lungs while they're asleep. And what that does is keeps their blood oxygen levels high enough so that their brains and their kidneys and their hearts don't start dying on them while they're asleep. And they literally shut down and don't get oxygen. So it's the same kind of concept even with COVID, the way it comes into the lungs. With the damages being done is that you're not getting the oxygen, your blood oxygen is going down. That's why people that are already not doing well, whenever that blood oxygen goes down and your kidneys aren't healthy, guess what? Now you have kidney failure and it leads to potential death. And so there's a lot of tie-ins of what we're talking here, but I'm glad that you're not for the mandates. I think mandates, as a general rule of thumb, are overreaching, especially this
Absolutely.
one. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of dates with my wife too. Are you in favor of?
Do you want me to mandate that?
Are you in favor of the
Did she
men out there
mandate that?
dating their wives?
Oh, yeah.
Are you in favor of that? Okay,
Absolutely.
okay. Controversial. Okay, so now, are you in favor of locking down Tulsa and shutting down businesses? Because when President Trump had the big rally that came to Tulsa, I was there. I had a White House press pass so I could cover the event. And see, it's sad what's going on down there. I mean, do you see all these businesses that are boarded up? Typically, when the president comes to town, all the restaurants would be rocking. All the people would be out in the streets having a great time, having food, having beverages. It was just sad to see all the missed opportunity, all the shutdowns. Ken, are you in favor of locking down Tulsa and shutting down Tulsa's businesses? Because I have a theory, Z, that when the businesses are shut down, they won't be open. So, Ken, I want to ask you this question. Are you in favor of the locking down Tulsa and the government-mandated shutdowns?
Absolutely not. I think that's far overreaching, especially for a mayor's position. So, in the city of Tulsa, local contractors, businesses, restaurant owners already have a hard enough time complying with all the ordinances and mandates that are already, and all the oversight that is already on top of them. This just added, complete chaos to their situation. I mean, everyone's in a lockdown. No one wants to go out and socialize, and then we cut off every business. I mean, it was far overreaching. I would have done education standards, and I would have at least mandated maybe a 50% reduction in occupancy standards and stuff like that. So I would have had I would just had mass town halls everywhere, constantly educating people on social distancing, sanitary habits, things that help them stay open, but also educate the public on how to stay safe while going out in public.
I think one of the worst little moments of this was when we came out with the rule of 10. You remember that? It lasted about 2 weeks before we figured out that it was just idiotic.
Right. Jackass at
the highest level. Yep. And what they said was, if you remember, folks, that you could have no more than 10 people in a room, in a space, in a building. Some of these buildings are huge. Yeah. I mean, the building that we're in right now is huge.
Huge. So huge that a wedding venue recently just canceled the wedding. They said to a bride and the groom, they said, hey, you can't have your wedding here. We've got COVID concerns. See, our building is so huge that we decided to allow a wedding to be hosted right here behind us tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of cool. I'm so glad for the kids. I met them just a little bit ago. They
Great guys.
Like sweet kids. And but my point was that 10 was kind of that was the number there for a while. Right. And you would go into a store like a Walmart or a Costco, or you could even find a parking spot at Lowe's or Home Depot, right?
Hundreds of people.
And there'd be hundreds of people in there.
Right. Yeah.
And then what that did is it allowed, I actually had some businesses that the police were called on from my competitors. They bragged about it. We know about it. And they came in and said, well, you can't have more than 10. I go, I've got a big building here. Right. It's 20,000 square feet, and you're telling me I can't have 50 people in it?
And because your competitors have never had more than 10 customers at one time.
That's probably right.
It was normal for them.
But I'm just saying it was one of those things that was just used as a hammer, and it was not thought out well. No. And that's my point is that it was a rule, and it was used as a weapon, and it kept businesses from happening, and it was idiotic. Right. It was completely idiotic.
Right.
And so, it's hard to see some of the decisions that our government has been making and not look at them and go, oh, that's idiotic too. How did that get past the talking head?
Well, okay, I want to get in. I think I know why it got passed. And I'm going to talk about why my theory is in a minute. You can feel free to disagree. You might be the next mayor. So here we go. Are you in favor, though? Are you in favor of keeping our schools closed? Because right now, according to the Telegraph and many other publications, okay, the Telegraph has come up with a study on this. Fox has come up with studies on this. But I'm reading directly from the Telegraph. They have now determined that school-aged children are more likely to be hit by lightning than to die from COVID-19, even without any treatments. So they said in the 2017-2018, you had a total of 80,000 people died from the flu, but you had 180 kids die from the flu. Well, they go on to talk about how luckily there might be elderly people, according to the CDC, elderly people with deeply compromised immune systems comprise the vast majority of the deaths, but thankfully kids don't have much of a risk of dying from COVID-19. Again, the CDC's report in Italy, 99.2% of all the people who died in Italy were elderly people with deeply compromised immune systems, but thankfully kids are not at risk of COVID-19, but yet during the typical year, 180 kids die from the common flu. So my question is, for you, Ken, are you in favor of keeping our schools closed And if not, or if so, why?
Absolutely not. I think the real pandemic in Tulsa at this time is just the failure of public school education with Tulsa Public Schools. They're already way overburdened, and they've already got a $20 million shortfall they're trying to deal with. They're already closing down 4 local neighborhood elementary schools. So the burden that's already on the single mother or the hardworking blue collar family it's already enough here in Tulsa. And the fact that they've chosen to close down for the first 9 weeks of the school year, is just another failure by leadership with the local school.
It absolutely is a failure by leadership. Look at the facts. Look what the kids need. A lot of these kids, and I was one of them. I went for my lunch was a reduced rate.
Mm-hmm.
It was subsidized, and I do appreciate that. And I grew up in a big family. We didn't have a lot. You can call it what you want.
Same
and poor, and. It was school was a place where we went and we knew we got a good hot meal. we got lunch. And now there's even a breakfast program, I believe, in the Tulsa Public School System. So a lot of these kids, and they're not, the parents can't afford babysitters. So they're home alone, sitting around the house doing
probably not great things.
Teenagers, kids. I mean, it's probably not the best of not the best of things at times. And school is a place where they can go and they can get mentored. I mean, I know so many people that in their life, one of the persons that has helped shape them into the great person they are, they can go back and say, it was my teacher.
Right.
And right now, I have fond memories of my 5th grade teachers. I have fond memories of teachers all throughout my life. Mm-hmm. And I was only 10 years old then, but they make such an impression. And our teachers out there are working really hard, and they do a great job. And I just breaks my heart that they're not looking at the science.
Exactly.
And we're not doing the right thing yet again.
Yeah,
and
simply reacting.
Now, here's the thing. I'm not shocked that in the city of Tulsa we have mask mandates. I'm not shocked we have the lockdowns of the businesses. And I'm not shocked in favor of keeping our schools closed because it's all part of this thing called the Rockefeller plan. Absolutely. Now, for those of you out there that don't spend copious amounts of time researching, could you please explain there, Ken, what is the Rockefeller plan, and are you in favor of the Rockefeller plan?
Absolutely not. So the Rockefeller plan is about a 100-year-old plan. It's just a globalist movement to just rule over government, and most recently it started taking into account just local municipalities. They're thinking on a micromanagement scale now. So the Rockefeller Foundation is the largest purchaser and donator of national parks in the United States, but they do that just as their way in. So they get massive support from local bureaucrats, and now they're just getting people like Mayor Bynum to buy into their agenda. Now they're going to do track tracing, and they're just turning Tulsa into, it's nicknamed now the Beta City.
Now,
so
I'm curious here. I'm not sure, Andrew, if I can share my screen with the folks out there. If I can, that's great. If I can't, no stress. But I have links I'll put underneath today's post. I have links to the actual PDF of the Rockefeller plan. I have links here to the Gates Foundation announcing a decade of vaccines. Z, I've got links to Al Gore from Wall Street Journal calling just last week for a global reset of capitalism. Z, I've got links to the Mayor's Challenge from Bloomberg.com. I have got, these are all links. These are not links from vast right-wing conspiracy.com. These are links from, we have links here to the COVID pass. There's a new thing that Bill Gates is talking about. Everybody should have a pass that shows they have received immunization and a vaccine before they can travel around freely. I've got links to all this stuff, and I just want to know, you worked with GT there for a while. What was your role working with GT, and how do you know he's in favor of working with organizations like Bloomberg, or is that just speculation?
No, it's not speculation. So my role with GT was only temporary. I backed out as soon as I saw behind the curtain. He reached out to us after our 2018 campaign and asked me to serve as his mayoral appointee to the Tulsa Sales Tax Overview Committee. My background being a certified project manager and being on the actual committee that was charged with the responsibility of all oversight of capital expenditure projects. Those are projects that the city actually partners with other institutions to help with construction, mission work, stuff like that, as long as it's on an actual infrastructure scale. So my role with GT was only temporary. As soon as I got in, and as soon as I went to a couple subcommittee meetings, and as soon as I brought my concerns back to his office, and I found out that there was just a lack of concern and responsibility across the entire City Hall spectrum, I said, this is not for me. I'm going to go ahead and back out. I think I want to, my role in the community should be a lot more proactive.
Z, you're a conservative. It says here, Mayor Bynum, this is in the Tulsa World, April 16th, 2020. Tulsa World article reads, Mayor Bynum says he's taking Obama's advice. Z, you're a conservative. Did you vote for Obama? And are you a big fan of our mayor taking Obama's advice, sir?
Several questions there. I did not vote for Obama. I don't think he's a horrible man.
Isn't
but
he the most conservative guy ever? No, he's
not. No, he's nowadays he almost looks like a moderate. I mean, when you look at how far left it's kind of gotten wacky, a guy like him comes in and you're like, he sounds more like a Republican than he did before. But I mean, taking advice from, and that's the thing about it is where are you getting your information? Who's advising you? What is going on with that? And I think that, it was I didn't like the fact that the way our president was treated when he came to Tulsa.
Yeah, we missed
I was embarrassed. As a Tulsan, I was quite frankly embarrassed by that. And
the mayor did not go to his rally.
And then for him to, and he could have sat up in a skybox, and I mean, he could have been way away from everybody. I mean, whatever. I don't know.
The Mayor Bynum could have been there in a bubble.
Yeah, and
the bubble boy.
And he could have
Bynum boy.
He could have relaxed the X's on the seats, and he could have made that where it was completely full, and we looked like we're no support,
Right.
And I tell you what, and then the way he's been dealing with the police and the potential riots and the potential protesting
right in front of your stores,
right all around my store.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I just see a lack of leadership, and then to hear that his think tank, the guys that he's going out to, I don't think anybody in Tulsa that's a conservative would say, you know what, I think that's a great person to put on your dream team to advise you, and that's President
Barack Hussein Obama.
Whoa.
Folks, we can simply not afford to look at the current reality of what's going on in this country and view it from the perspective that it is a fiction movie that we have no control over. We can't look at what's going on as though we have no impact on what is happening around us. You and I must choose to become active. We must choose to become a catalyst, regardless of what city you are in. It is up to you to share this truth beyond just this booth, beyond just this studio. You have to share the truth in the air everywhere. Whether you are in California or New York or Florida or Oklahoma or South Dakota, you have to share the truth. The truth is what's going to set us free. The facts are what people need before they act. Now is the time to share the truth. And now, without any further ado, we like to end each and every show with a boom. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom. If you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know that I like to grow businesses that help people to create both time and financial freedom. But I also like to record rap songs because I'm a former disc jockey. And so for this next track, I teamed up with a man by the name of Young Knowledge. His rap name is Young Knowledge. In the office, he's known by the name of Charles, but his rap name is Young Knowledge, Y-U-N-G, Knowledge. And we teamed up together to record this lyrical miracle that hopefully will inspire you and will fire you up with the conviction needed and the motivation needed to share the truth in the air everywhere. My friends, you have the ability to make change. Change starts with one, and change starts with you.
If you don't understand you're the one, you won't understand why you're being attacked like you're being attacked. Whenever the enemy knows that the one is coming, he always sets traps to stop them from succeeding because they're the one. And to him whom much is given, much is required. And so the text starts out talking about Abraham because Abraham is the one. And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he was a misfit because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay because he was the one. So he had to live in isolation because he was the one. So he probably was lonely because he was the one. Because he was the one. Because he was the one.
New city, new state, it's gonna be a mean race. All the sins that I have done, I'm grateful for a clean slate. Felt like I was different, I ain't never tried to prove it though. Stack your chips, get on your grind, don't never make excuses, bro. Solid as a rock, loyalty is all I ever know. Doing what you've always done, then homie, you can never grow. Conversations with the Lord, I ask him would I ever blow. Told me I got dead weight, so friends, I gotta let them go. We don't make it. I know they think hating, it's all in their faces. We destined for greatness. I said, I've been patient. I know it's my moment, no stopping, we going, this thing is in motion. What you gon' do when your back's against the wall? You gon' stand up like a champ or you gon' curl up in the ball? I'm the one, I've been chosen, so I'm riding through it all. Gotta keep your faith up so you can rise and never fall. Let's go.
And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay with his kinfolks because he was the one. They are always on the hit list because hell knows that he is the one. I want to talk to some people that have been up under crazy attack. And to him whom much is given, much is required.
The devil's been attacking, I ain't stressing from it. Cause every time that happens, there's a blessing coming. Obsessing over problems that you can't change. I had you going crazy, learn your lesson from it. Remember when they cut my water off, homie? Man, reflecting how they cut my lights off too. Dog, I had to move back in with my mama. Had me feeling like a failure, that's what life would do. Gotta get up on your grind, I had to make the right move. Ramen noodles every night, I had some beans and rice too. Execution is the key, don't tell me what you might do. Favor from the man above, no other God is like you. You can knock me down, but I promise I ain't staying there. Feeling like I am the one, we just begun, let's make it clear. Me and Clay clicking up, y'all don't even get it, bruh. About to be colossal, taking over when we rip it up, hey.
And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay with his kinfolks because he was the one. They are always on the hit list because hell knows that he is the one. I want to talk to some people that have been up under crazy attack. And to him whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah, started from the bottom, now I'm here. Overnight success after 23 years. Got the dragon energy, got another gear. Got a superpower, man, I call persevere. Cause I never have it thought people call fear. I never stop grinding when the future's not clear. We're gonna be dead soon and I'm just being real. So I'll be paralyzed by the thoughts that we feel.
So you'll stop begging for people to come into agreement with you. So you'll stop doing polls and census and trying to get everybody to come into consensus with your vision so that you won't need nobody to say amen when you preach, because you already know that you got heaven saying amen. The power of one.
Listen to the entire T.D. Jakes sermon, Grasping the Moment, by visiting T.D. Jakes' YouTube channel, simply named T.D. Jakes.
Thunder, you're getting ready to flow.